Hey everyone, thanks for coming back this week. So, as you probably know, my name is Jackie, and I'm from the American Society for the Positive Care of Children, or ASPCC. And today I'm so excited to have Roderick Chambers on the show. Roderick is the Senior Threat Intelligence Consultant for Recorded Future. He has designed, implemented, and supported security awareness programs in organizations of all sizes in all industries worldwide. He began his career in the federal government, specifically in the intelligence community, where he served in various roles as an intelligence operations professional and technical collections lead. He has since served in other positions supporting the cybersecurity programs in organizations of all sizes. And today, we've invited him to the show to talk about the time our kids are spending online and how we can keep them safe. So, Roderick, thanks for coming on today. I'm glad I was able to fit into your schedule.
Hey, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate the time. Glad to be on board this month. It's really important. So glad to help out.
Thank you. So I guess we could just jump right in. So since the pandemic, kids are online now more than ever. In your professional opinion, are families doing all they need to keep their kids safe?
Definitely. So, this month is really important. I have two children myself, a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old, and living in the currently pandemic world with Zoom, remote working, it's extremely important to just help out, be a support party for our adults, as well as our educators as well, too, keeping kids safe online. There's lots of dangers and slang terminology and pitfall that we all have to learn together. So it's really important, and it's not going anywhere. This is a new normal, and we're going to have to get used to this for quite some years from now. So
yeah. Especially with like all the and schools are doing it differently now, right? They have the hybrid programs. They have either go to school all the time or stay home all the time. So it's definitely a different landscape. We've kind of learned how to live online with school and games and work, but now we're being forced into that space.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I think it helps out with educators is that, while we are working from Zoom, different online platforms, the way the kids interact is also very different as well, too. Because, when there's kind of that sense of anonymity, kids will do more at all different ages and groups. And I know we're talking about children right now, but we also look at it for adults as well, too. Adults on Twitter and Instagrams and their Facebooks. It kind of goes across all the boards where we can all learn from each other on best practice and what exactly is cyberbullying and bullying in general, and how to see those signs, identify them, and as well as best ways to report them as well, too. So this will be a great discussion to giving some, as a professional, what I've seen reviewing, other schools as we investigate cases of bullying. We'll talk a little bit more about doxing in the future, how to really set up our children for the future, because what is put out there on the internet is really forever. And then, of course, working together as adults and checking ourselves, understanding what we're doing, what type of digital profile that we have, so we can be an example as well.
I'm so scared for the day that my kids Google me.
That is part of it right there. It will happen. It will happen. So yes, it will happen.
So you kind of touched on this a second ago, but I mean, cyberbullying, it's not new. It's been around for a while, but it's something that I don't think is talked about enough. At least in my house, it's not. I've got a 6-year-old who thinks he knows everything about the computer right now. But so now that kids are spending more time online and we're bringing more awareness to cyberbullying, how are we to know when a child is being cyberbullied? Are there signs that we should look for?
Definitely. Let me I'm going to do a little bit of screen sharing back and forth because I would like for just parents, family members to take things home with them as well too, especially with tips and kind of those signs to look at. And so the first one that we have here, and we'll take a look at this point here. I use this and I'll flip back and forth so we have the video going as well too. But a lot of my background, especially with intelligence collection sounds like that big scary word. What does that mean? but just gathering information, and it's providing information to the right stakeholders. For some school districts, that information is, how are our students using those Chromebooks that they've been issued, iPads they've been issued, and then, of course, for educational purposes, but also allowing those students to have the access to search all these different applications. You have YouTube on there. I know some parents are just like my 12-year-old. He watches video games on YouTube. Crazy phenomena, but I think every parent experiences that. And so that is where my background continues to evolve year after year after year, gathering information, intelligence, as you will, and providing to the stakeholders. And those stakeholders are parents and educators on how to best develop. One of I think the first thing, especially for myself, moving from a very national security aspect to an educational aspect, helping out our educators, is understanding what is bullying. And so that was probably the best way to sort of level set. So I'm going to play this really short video that kind of helps out. I use this as kind of level setting with parents as they understand what traditional bullying is versus what we've all have walked into, which is cyberbullying.
Hi, I'm Maya.
And I'm Darius.
And we have to talk about something.
It's bullying.
When people think of bullying, they think of kids getting shoved into lockers or having their heads flushed in a toilet. But the truth is, bullying can be a lot more complicated than that.
Bullies use their power to hurt or control others. And they might make you feel unsafe in places where you should feel protected.
And that's not okay. Your school, sports teams, and after-school clubs have to be safe spaces for everyone. There was a time when I didn't feel welcome at school. Some girls that I thought were my friends had decided I wasn't cool enough for them. Everywhere I went, they either laughed at me, made fun of me, or ignored me altogether. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, there was a time when I didn't feel safe at school. I started to dread coming to football practice because one of my teammates would always take the drills too far. It didn't seem like anyone noticed. I mean, the coach was too busy focusing on the whole team to see me being bullied.
No one ever has the right to hurt you or make you feel unsafe.
The problem is, bullying is hard to stop. And that's because most people's first reaction to bullying is to ignore it. You may feel like it will go away, but the problem with ignoring it
is that it won't stop, and it might even get worse. Maybe you're embarrassed, or you want to believe that it's not a big deal.
Or maybe you're afraid that telling will make it worse, or that whoever you need to tell won't understand or be able to help.
But trust us, because we've been there. If you're being bullied, there's only one way to deal with it.
Stop, walk away, and tell an adult. Stop taking the abuse.
Get yourself away from the situation.
And go talk to an adult you trust. Tell them everything.
Parents, teachers, counselors, and coaches' first priority is your safety. Believe me, there are adults that want to help you.
Bullies might scare you out of telling, but if you tell an adult, the bullying is more likely to stop.
The adults in our lives won't tolerate bullying, but we can't tolerate it either. We have to stand up for each other, and we all know some kids get it the worst.
Last year, a friend of ours started feeling unwelcome and unsafe at school. He was being bullied for weeks just for being different and having different interests than some of the other kids at school.
We didn't want to see our friend get hurt or feel like he didn't belong. So we helped do something about it.
Kids who are LGBTQ or who are of color or maybe have learning challenges or physical differences might get bullied the most. We need to work together to decide how safe our school can be.
Our differences are our strengths. we also know that bullies need help too.
But we can't tolerate their behavior. Never ignore bullying. Never stay silent. You will help yourself and help your bully more by speaking up.
Stop, walk away, and tell an adult. Even if the bullying happens online or on your phone, speak up whenever you see, hear about, or experience bullying.
Do it for yourself, for your friends, for the kids you've never even met. Always speak up.
It's time we work together to make our schools safer for everyone.
Definitely. So, one of the really, really big things that, we all have to kind of look at whenever we're talking about cyberbullying or bullying in general is that we all have to be able to speak up and hear it. Zoom calls works both ways, as I tell a lot of people. I'm pretty sure teachers and educators have heard our households, different adults talking on their job and things in the background, just like we've heard everything from inside the classroom. And so it's very important for us when we do overhear those Zoom calls to speak up and say something about that, because as an educator, they're still trying to get used to using Zoom themselves, sending applications over, sharing screens. As adults, we can definitely be the eyes and ears and to help out a lot of times. My son, he has Zoom courses all the time. And a big thing that happens is bandwidth with internet. And as soon as if the teacher's bandwidth drops, the hosting privileges were immediately passed over to the first student that arrived in the group. That could be a problem, but seeing that and hearing that, and giving that much power to 12-year-olds is a lot, especially on Zoom. But being able to hear that and then letting the instructors know, hey, on this particular Zoom control, and we're all Zoom users now, Zoom and Skype and GoToMeetings, you can, how to change a setting, how to make sure that, if, you are dropped as the host from a meeting, it's immediately transferred over to another teacher, or that it locks the call. There's ways that we can also help out to show those little configurations that make the world a difference, but we all really need to be vigilant and really look around and then help our educators out, especially during this time.
Yeah, and I love that call out at the end there, where you said we all have to be vigilant and we have to help the educators, because like the way that school has worked before, kids go to school, educators are the ones who have their eyes on the kids predominantly. Now they're in a different landscape where they're paying attention to kids like in the classroom and at home.
That's right.
And like the parents are parents may not be aware of like the language that kids are using with each other. So I really like that you mentioned that it's not just to help out the kids, but it's also to help out the teachers pick up on what's going on in that environment at the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other big thing, a couple of things too, just looking at, working from just a little bit about what cyberbullying is, we can really, there's so much going on, and it's so much to tell educators and parents what to look for. But if we could filter it down, and I use the word filter quite a bit, into just a few categories. What do our kids use now? They use smartphones, they use tablets, they use computers. So it does shrink the hardware, if you will, on what we need to pay attention to or get smart on. But the other area is looking at, what type of applications are kids using? Where could cyberbullying, the video that we just watched, occur? And a lot of it is in texting. Your different social media applications, you name it, from TikTok all the way to Instagram, we can't keep up. But social media has that general principle with it. It's social. Your networks have expanded. And what can we do with that? And then gaming platforms, using chat groups such as Discord, or even being able to talk within the game. It's about being very vigilant on these, understanding and taking an interest in what your kids are doing, even though you may not like it. And I hear it, games, video games, but it's definitely important for us to definitely dive into those and use those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. No, I was just trying to think like how kids are, how they interacted before the pandemic, and now they're learning how to interact in schools, because again, like I keep using my 6-year-old son because it's weird to me that he has to come home, like he goes to school physically, but he also has like online work, and he's not used to that. So having to teach kids these different applications, and then having him, know the difference between the computer and the tablet and the phone and the applications on the smart TV and the things that he gets into, it's just strange to see how quickly they learn those things, and how like they find things that I would have never thought to find.
No, it very truly is. Kids are definitely resourceful nowadays, and they're learning at the speed of light on how to navigate the different devices, how to navigate the different platforms. Even my kindergartner, she is very familiar on how to navigate her apps now, her educational apps for school, and how to turn in work and the submission button. And so definitely, it's definitely looking at, the 4 areas that I have up here, where it doesn't become commonplace that these are not normal. As exactly what you said, how will we interact face to face versus how do we act virtually? And helping kids understand what is the meaning of harassment, what is impersonation. While it does sound, very, almost like a joke. Almost a lot of times this happens a lot with video games. Gamers, if you take their username and they make very small change in the username, such as Top Gun 21, they may use Top Gun _21. For the casual user, it looks the same, but they're 2 very different people. And so that's a lot of times an impersonation comes into play. We look a lot about shaming as well too. And this usually happens through text. A very important piece that I like to tell everyone, kids, adults, anybody with access to the internet, screen captures will ultimately exist forever. So no matter if you delete those or scrub your tweets, delete your Instagram account or account, you can never take away a screen capture. It's there forever. And so we got to be very careful about the images we send, the pictures we take, and the access that we give the phones. And then lastly, outing, which is definitely a little bit of a twist. Like, what does this actually mean? But this is definitely using your social media platforms to basically just dump information out there on somebody. This is a little bit where doxing comes from, and we'll go through what doxing means. But those are very, very key areas that we all can look at and definitely learn from. As we're going through and understanding what cyberbullying is.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you were able to. I'm glad that you did that explanation of the different ways that people can be cyberbullied, because you may just think like it's somebody sending a mean, like you said, like a mean text message or something like that, but there's different ways that can really hurt somebody. I was even just thinking about the impersonation one. I feel like that one is probably more damaging. I don't know. Maybe I don't know too much about it. Do you know like what avenues each of those happen in the most?
Definitely. So, you're looking at harassment really occurs a lot via text messages. Text messages that links phone to phone group messages. Impersonation occurs quite heavily in video game profiles and those social media apps when you can use pictures or avatars of what you will. My son, he had a good example. I chat with him about these things all the time, where someone did try to impersonate his username. We've always talked about the importance of usernames, but the group that he's with, and this shows you the resilience of kids, the kids that he was, or the users that he was interacting with, they knew immediately that this is not something that he would normally say or do, or how he played a game. And so it's very unique how the group of users that he normally plays with reported this person as impersonating him. Because that was like, wow, it was like, when you have a group of users like that will look out for each other, and then the wherewithal to report it. And my son said, it's not this big, long, it's a little button on the right-hand side that says report a user for abuse, or like, oh, it's very much that intuitive. I didn't think about it like that. But developers have made it very accessible to report anomalies like that. And so
Mhm.
gaming platforms have a lot of impersonations. And then outings are definitely your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagram. There's so much, disinformation and misinformation that's out there. Both of those little slight nuances in both of those, but it's definitely a way where, a message can get retweeted and spread over and over and over relatively quickly. And it's like wildfire. Once it's out there and it's going and it's trending, it's hard to pull that back.
Mhm. Yeah. I was just trying to think of, it's just I keep trying to think of like the real life examples in each of these because I feel like personally I've experienced all of those, and that just makes me wonder if everybody else has too. And I really like that story that you shared about your son, because it was like the people he spends time with online, they knew his personality, they know his heart, and like it. So I think that just shows like whatever you put in online, it's who you are. It's your personification. Um, so that was really interesting to hear that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's your online identity. Exactly what you put out there is what people see, and it's very interesting how during this pandemic time, I know March until probably August was probably the most unusual time for education. So he spent an absorbent amount of time on devices. But again, sitting with him and teaching him, why do we have usernames? It's like you don't want to give for someone your real, your true first name and last name, what they're built for, and then to listen for nuances in games. If it's 3 p.m. and you have a user who's saying that they have to get ready for school, you know that it's probably an 8 to 9 hour time difference. Could they be in the United States? Probably not. So you can begin to pick up on things like accents and the way that they use different terminology and slang words all the time, and helping them understand and pick up on those nuances. Again, kids are very, very resilient, and
Mhm.
they really will look out for each other a whole lot. Uh, One of the things that is very important for us as parents is getting used to slang terminology. And the best way to do that is just to sit with your kids and hear these things. Whenever my son talks about getting pwned all the time, it came from Fortnite. And if as adults, if we have kids between the ages of 9 and probably 15, we've all probably grown aware to what Fortnite is. But hearing him use that terminology and understanding that Discord, which is a popular gaming app, is what he uses, it at least guides me, and I think every other parent, to really dive deep and understand what is Discord. What type of accesses and privileges does a user have? How did he even sign up for Discord without having, as an adult looking at that? But it,
Mhm.
it begs for all those questions that we have there, and it's very important for us to learn from one another, especially with our children. What exactly is, how to get used to these platforms, how to pick up on those ways of bullying if they occur, and how to report those.
Mhm. Yeah. So, in your opinion, what are some ways that we can help our kids, like you said, build that resilience or protect themselves from cyberbullying?
Definitely. So one of the ways that they can definitely protect themselves is to understand what's currently out there right now as far as information on themselves. And then of course being able to know how to report those as well too. One of the best things that we should all do for ourselves, this is a a slang terminology, docs, which is this is where it was previously used in journalism, where journalists that were working in those countries that they're not easily accessible or not welcoming different allies, they would dump a lot of information on journalists, their name, address, even going far as back as when they went to middle school, who their middle school teacher was. It's a lot of information out there that's available. But I would definitely tell everyone and work together. First thing is Google yourself, and people when you say Google is not as intuitive. But what do you mean by Google yourself? Let's unwrap that a little bit. Different sources, and these are all free. Spokio, Intellius, Anywho, White Pages, but just seeing what information is currently out there on yourself. Name, address, does it have closest family members? What's currently out there. Having that in your hand will really guide you on, what could a person gather on you? What could, in the kind of words of cyberbullying, what could a bully use to, begin to make fun of you or pick on you, get a rise out of you? But understanding what's currently out there, because we're not face to face. And the second phase is looking at audit your social media. Independent on what we all may think as adults about social media, we all have a social media footprint. If you use Slack or you use your iPad message, that's a social media area, because you're building a network. You're communicating with a network of people, and that information is being exchanged. So social media, we want to look at things like old Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts. Even my parents now have Facebook accounts. So digital profiles have expanded. But the biggest thing is with social media is not as simple as deleting your account and all is well and you can start off new. Let's remember screen captures. They capture everything that's out there. Things like tweet delete. They're good for the moment, but you really have no way of knowing what has already been captured or reused or sitting on someone's desktop just waiting for them. So take an audit of your social media. Accounts that you're not using, get rid of those. And also talk to your children about which accounts they use, such as Discord for gaming. TikTok was really big too. Just sitting down with them and talking about how that functionality works, why they use it, who do they communicate on TikTok with? Friends, school, who do you chat with that is very big.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is image searching as well too. We live in a very visually enticing world where TikToks, we like videos and pictures, memes and GIFs, everything that makes you laugh. So reverse searching images of yourself really helps out with impersonation. So free resources such as Yandex or TinyEye right here, TinEye, you will be able to see what images are out there of yourself. Were you captured in San Antonio Express newspaper one day in the background? Or if someone took a picture from Facebook or a screen capture and posted somewhere else, but you can keep track of that. All free resources. And then lastly, data breaches. One of the easiest way, and we all get attacked by this, is account break-ins, your username and passwords. And I know we've all heard it before, but not reusing those. But understanding what data is out there as far as your accounts, your username and passwords. Unfortunately, with COVID, all of our kids, because they have Zoom accounts, because they have Canvas and other applications, they now have username and passwords. And knowing which of those applications may have been breached or may have had a security issue, our kids are not tuned enough to not reuse passwords. They look for the easiest and quickest issue that's out there. And as adults, we do the same thing. We look for the quickest and the easiest way out there. So password reuse is definitely prevalent here. This is great for them as adolescents, but as they grow and get into their teenage years and maybe even university life, those username and passwords can be very important because we, as human beings, we have a tendency to reuse those.
Mm-hmm.
And getting access to your account is the number one way, and probably the most damaging way for cyberbullying to really grip a student and be almost really irreversible, because they have access to your accounts. And that could be very, very hard to recover from all around.
Wow. That was a lot of really great information. And it's a lot to think about, how to change your daily habits online. I know I'm going to be looking at my passwords because I definitely use
it. We all do. I work with adults and corporations as well. Passwords it's become very easy, but it's tough for kids to recover from that, especially when it's they have access to their Zoom account and they may log in with their Zoom account and have fun and do the Zoom bombing and everything else. And these are not ideas that are just thought up out there, but seeing this live, going through and seeing the amount of data that a peer will publish on another peer that's out there. It actually really exists. These are all scenarios that have happened and continue to occur all the time. So it's not the what if scenario, but it is, unfortunately, there's kids, there's teenagers, there's adolescents, even young kids that go through this every day. And it's very, very hard to change, to fix that, as well as help adults understand what happened. That's usually the question that I always get, was like, how did this person get so much information and were able to dump this on Twitter, or how did they get access to all of my photos on my phone, my child's phone? It's very much as simple as if you Google how to remotely turn on your iPhone, all the instructions are there. So kids are very, very smart when they want to, but we do have to be cognizant of those.
Yeah. And again, it just starts with, being aware with what you do and teaching your kids what they need to do to keep themselves safe. Yeah. So thank you for all that really good information and for the resources for everybody to dox themselves. I'm really glad that we got to go through that. So, thank you for coming on the show today. It was just really good. It was a lot of really good information.
Definitely.
So for everybody who's watching, if you'd like more information about what Roderick does and how to help kids with cyberbullying, I'd like to tag Roderick's friends, colleagues, and favorite organizations here in this post. Little shout out to Tiffany Galvin, a friend, colleague, and just around amazing person. New Leaders Council in San Antonio, Blacks in Cybersecurity, Women of Color Advancing Peace and Security, and of course, Recorded Future. Lastly, we need to prevent bullying, not just this month, but all year long. And so I invite you to join ASPCC's campaign, Be a Friend, Not a Bully. We're fundraising to raise $5,000 this month to provide 20,000 parents, teachers, and caregivers with resource kits that will lessen and prevent the damaging effects of bullying. And to you, our listeners, who feel called to make a difference in the world or right in your own home, we thank you for participating in this very important talk. And we'll see you next time.